Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ritual. My name is Amy Harvey, and I will be your podcast host for today. So today, I'm by myself again. There's no guest today, it's just me. And I thought I would it's probably not going to be the longest episode today, but there's just something that I thought I would talk about. Also, I have the window open because it's such a nice day today. So you can probably hear the hundreds of birds outside my window. Think of it as nice ambience. I just wanted to talk about something that I often get people chat to me about, and something that I have experienced myself, and I'm sure will again at some point. But that is having doubt in your magical practice. Now, this can come in so many different forms. But I think maybe I'll break it up a little bit in the different stages. So when I talk about doubt, when you first start out on your kind of witchy magical path, obviously you will come in contact with people who will think that it's just complete hocus pocus and woo woo and all that, which is fine. Like, you know, there are other religions that may not, or paths that may not resonate with me, but each to their own, right? But I feel like sometimes when you're so drawn to a path and then you have, you know, other voices in your head, including your own, that are doubting the things that you want to believe and feel drawn to believe, that can often be enough to put you off from even attempting to begin. And it can be kind of a bummer, you know, like we're so easily influenced by other people, and we really shouldn't be, but it's so much easier said than done. And so one way that I tackled that when I first started is I remember that one of my teachers said this to me, and I think I've probably mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again because it really is something that when I'm having one of those days where I feel like I'm really blocking myself, I remember this and I try to live by this, where she said, what if you just said that everything was a yes? So what I mean by that is, what if it wasn't a coincidence? What if it actually happened? What if that sign you saw was a sign? So you would say, yes, it was. Because you know how sometimes you can get a sign. Maybe it's like a certain kind of bird. Maybe it's a feather falls at your feet. Maybe you keep hearing the same song over and over again. All these different things keep popping up. And you can easily go, it's just a weird coincidence. It really doesn't mean anything. And then you kind of fob it off and then it just disappears and then it's all over. But what if it wasn't just a coincidence? What if it was something? What if it was someone trying to contact you? What if it was a deity wanting to connect? What if it was your higher self trying to send a message? So when you're first starting out, I think always go with a confirmation of it was something more. It was always something more. The reason why is because the more open you are, the more open your mind becomes, the more your third eye will open up, the more your psychic self or your inner witch will start to awaken. Sorry if you can hear all that barking. Our neighbor has a dog who likes to bark every time a bird farts and the posties just pulled into our driveway. So if he's going berserk, that's why. But yeah, so saying yes, it allows yourself and gives yourself permission to open up that part of your mind that we are so quick to shut down. And that's the magical part of your mind. That's the part that calls in something deeper than just what we see on a day-to-day. It's that part of you that kind of gives a deeper meaning to things. Like a bird isn't just a bird. You know, each bird has its own meaning, it has its own magic, just like every flower does, every herb, every whatever. That's your magical mind that's able to see beyond what most people see. So by saying to yourself, from today, I'm going to say yes to everything. Yes, it was a coincidence. And maybe sometimes it is, you know, maybe it is, but just allow yourself to fully commit and fully believe, even if in the moment you don't, you will start to feel that shift happen, and you'll start to feel yourself dive deeper into the possibility of something more, until things start coming through that you literally cannot ignore anymore. Like the synchronicities will be constant, and you'll see that because you've allowed that part of your brain to open up and allow that deeper communication to come in, really cool things start to happen. So that's like when you're first starting, but also on days when you can feel yourself blocking. Allow yourself that permission to believe that everything is magical. Another thing that I do is I find my convincing moment. Now, what you'll find if you're new, or maybe even if you are well and truly on your way to being the witch you want to be, you will have a convincing moment where no matter what you do, you just can't explain how something happened. Like it's just unexplainable to a science mind, a normal person's mind, or whatever. I call that your convincing moment, where it means that no matter what you do, you can't, what's the word? You can't debunk the magic. So, for example, here's mine. One day, I had been at a psychic development class, and it was about 9:30 at night, and I was driving home down the freeway. I was on the phone to Patty, and I was like going through, you know, everything that had been going on in the class and what we learned. And now remember, at this point, when you do classes like this, you will often do meditations to really open up that psychic part of your mind, your third eye, get that going. So you're in a very open state as it is. But anyway, we're talking about the class, and I don't even know what I was saying, but I'm driving down the freeway, and like, even though it's late at night, there's quite a few people still on the road. So I'm not the only one around. There was probably maybe 5 or 6 other cars around me. All of a sudden, as I'm driving, there was this, it looked like a flare gun had flown over my car, right past my window, my front window, right in front of me, as I was driving, like as in not in the air. It was almost like right level with my eyesight. And I remember going to Patty, I'm like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? It literally looked like this, like sparkler flying through the air. And then as quick as it came, it flew in front of me, like, and it wasn't even like super fast. It was almost like slowly flying in front, went right in front of the car, and then poof, disappeared. And I looked around at the other cars, and no one had reacted. No one was looking at it. No one was like pointing anything out. It was literally as though I was the only person that had seen that. And it wasn't like a, you know, something in the corner of your eye. This is something I watched fly in front of me, go right in front of my car, and then disappear over the span of maybe 15, 20 seconds. And then it disappeared. And I have no idea what that is. I have never seen it before. I couldn't explain it. And Patty's trying to explain, he's like, did someone spark something? Was it from a car? And I'm like, no, it literally was flying in the sky and it just disappeared. And I have no idea what it is. To this day, it is unexplainable. But when I'm having moments where I'm like, is this even happening? Is this really, is this magic real? I remember that moment. And I remember not being able to debunk it, not being able to find a reason why it was there, but knowing that I was there to see it. And it was obviously there for me and nobody else because no one else saw it. And that's like my convincing moment of there is something more to this than we know or we understand. And no matter what happens, no matter what my doubt says, I can't fault that. I can't doubt that because I know I saw it clear as day right in front of me. And I'm sure that you will either find or you already have a moment like that. That's your convincing moment. So hold on to it with dear life because that is something magical in itself, because that will bring you back to that moment and you remember what it felt like. You remember how you felt seeing something so magical that you couldn't explain that was just for you. That's a really beautiful gift. So hold on to that and always remember it when that doubt creeps into your mind. Another thing that will often cause doubt is when we go through really shitty times. Maybe you've done a lot of spell work for something and it falls through and it's really hard to manage. Maybe, there's a dream you've had and you feel like you've done everything possible to manifest it, but it just slips through your fingers. Maybe something really horrible happens where you get betrayed or heartbroken or who knows what. Often it's times like this when you are at your lowest that you will go, but I did everything I was meant to do and it still didn't happen. It still went wrong. And you can almost feel betrayed by your own magic. Like, why weren't you there for me? If you have guides that you work with, you might be like, where were you? Like, you're meant to look out for me. And like, I know I have experienced that even at the beginning of this year, we went through something incredibly difficult. And I know I had times where I was like, where the hell were you? Like, isn't that why you're here? Aren't you meant to protect me from these things? Like, why would you put me through something so horrible and like upsetting? And it can really make you doubt yourself. And it can make you doubt everything that you believe because you're like, if it was real, this wouldn't happen. But I think sometimes, and I know this can be incredibly difficult to remember when you're going through it, but often I find that there's always a silver lining to every tragic moment, even though at the time you can feel completely in the dark. I think nearly every hardship that I've been through in my life, being able to look back at it, I can see the lesson. I can see the positive in it. Even though at the time I was like, this is well and truly fucked. I can look back and go, yes, I can see why that happened. And like I said, at the time, it doesn't necessarily have to kind of make itself known, but trusting that it will. And often I find that, especially when you're doing deity work as well, they will put you through something, even though it can seem completely unfair, but they do it knowing that you are strong enough to tackle it and that you are able to overcome it, because coming through it, you will be even stronger than you were before. And it's because that maybe there's something even greater waiting for you on the other side. I was talking to my friend who works with the Morrigan, and she said the Morrigan, I mean, I've never worked with her, but from what I've heard, she can be incredibly brutal to work with. And often she finds people who are at their very worst Maybe they're suicidal. Maybe they're going through extreme health problems, crazy stress. Their life is breaking down. And she comes in and she almost like makes it worse for them, not because she's trying to be mean, but she knows that they can handle it and that something great will come from it. Because when you push people when they're in that, sometimes it gives them the strength to really rise through the dark. Like sometimes it's like, when you're having a bad day and there's that one thing at the end when you go, you know what? Fuck this. I am not going to let this defeat me. It's almost like they can do that sometimes. And I try to remember that when I'm having those moments where I'm like, where the hell are you? And then not letting yourself become a victim. And I think this is something that's like so important, is that whenever we're handed a shitty situation, everybody has the exact same choice to make. Do you take the positive road from it, or do you take the negative? And the negative is so much easier because it's like the downward slope. It's the one that you don't have to work hard to feel because you already feel it, and you can walk down it with ease. But you need to remember that you're walking downhill to a place that you don't want to be. But if you take the positive road, yes, it's uphill, and yes, it's harder, but you're walking towards the light. And everybody has that choice. No matter how horrible the situation, no matter how difficult or alone you may feel, you are presented with that. And I feel like your magical path, be it with deity work, guides, just your inner higher self, present you with that and go, how are you going? Where are you going to go from here? Which road are you going to take? And I can tell you, if you go downhill, they probably won't be there, because that's the wrong one to take. But if you rise up and you go, you know what, even though I feel so lost or overwhelmed or exhausted or whatever it is, I'm not going to let this define me. And you take that higher road, they will be there. And that's when you find that moment where you go, I see why this has happened. I can see the lesson in this. And yeah, it's hard sometimes to go through, but I feel like every single situation has a magical lesson, which, it can be a real pain in the ass sometimes, but it is there. So just remember that when you are having that doubt about your path and you are going through that, there's that choice, and try and make the right one, because then that magic will return to you. It's always going to be there. It's just waiting for you to find it. Another thing that I also really like to do, something that I do to this very day, is I have a witch diary. And in this one, I write all my magical experiences that happen. The reason why I have this, obviously, is not only to document my life and my magical path, but it's for when you're having these moments of doubt, that you can go back to it and go, I remember that. And I remember when magic did happen. Like for me, for example, I remember there was this one time when I was doing a meditation with Hecate, and this will sound a little bit woo-woo, this story, but just hang with me. When I do a meditation, I usually go quite deep. I'm very lucky in that meditation comes easy to me, and I will often disappear into another world, which can be quite fun. But when I was working with her, I can't remember the exact circumstance of what was happening in my life, but I think often my repeated problem is that I don't work on my own magical path enough. And Hecate usually comes in and kicks me up the butt and saying that's not good enough. And I assume it was something to do with that. And actually, I think it might have been to do with leveling up as a witch. On your path, you'll always find these moments where you're ready to level up and dive deeper into magic. And I think I was at a point like that. And so I was doing this meditation with her, and it was incredibly visual. It was like walking into this room and she was there and we were standing over a balcony. And when we looked outside, it was like the night sky and you could see this beautiful crescent moon in the sky. And this raven came and flew over and sat with us. And then she was there and she looks so beautiful. Hecate always looks beautiful to me. She's just this like beautiful goddess with this long hair and black dress, and everything was there. And she was basically talking to me about how I'm ready for my next level as a witch and telling me all the things that I had to do. And then I finished the meditation and I pulled a card. It was from my Hecate. Like I have different oracle cards that I have dedicated to certain deities that I work with. So I got my Hecate one, which is a Fiona Horn deck. I forgot the name of it right now. It's her latest one. It looks quite dark and spooky when you look at it. Total Hecate vibes though. And I pulled a card and it was like, I literally started laughing as I was reading this because it was like someone had pulled that visual out of my mind and put it in a card. And I remember I pulled this card called The Witch. And when you read the description, it was like someone had written down my meditation. And even looking at the card, it was like this witch standing in the night sky. There's a beautiful crescent moon. She's surrounded by this forest. She's in this black dress. There's a raven there. And then the description is talking about like looking out into the night, diving deeper as a witch and like all this stuff. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I literally just saw that. And then I randomly pulled this card. Like there is no way that is a coincidence because they are so aligned with each other. You can't even fault it. And I even went up and told Patty, showed him the card, and he just started laughing. He was like, you are a freak. I don't know how that happens. But it's like you write down moments like that where you'll forget about them, which is such a waste, which is why it's so important to have these diaries. But if you write down these little moments where, whether it's a card reading, whether it's like, this thought that popped into your mind out of nowhere and it totally aligned with something that you needed to hear, whether it's a song that keeps popping on the radio and you hear it 5 times in a day. And then when you look at the words, you go, holy shit, that is so meant for me. Write all these things down because I can guarantee you will thank yourself one day. You will go back and you will read it and you'll go, yes, I am a badass witch. And there's the magic to prove it. It's just like such a cool gift to give yourself, that memory of magic. And I think all these things, they help conquer that doubt that will come to you on this path. And I'm sure there's many more, but these are just ones that I thought of today that have really helped me. And I hope that they help you as well, because, you may not be feeling it. You may be feeling like a total strong witch today, but just in case you get knocked, and maybe there is someone who's feeling really lost at the moment or feeling really overwhelmed, this episode is for you. Because it just came to me all of a sudden. I really felt drawn to talking about this. So maybe it's something that people are going through. There's a shift in seasons at the moment. We're going into spring. If you're in the north, you're going into autumn, and often a shift in our outside world will cause a shift inside us. So if you needed to hear this, I hope that it helped in some way. But yeah, it's kind of a short one today. It's just something I wanted to share. And that's it. That is it. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you're having a really beautiful week and enjoying this change in whether it be spring or autumn, and embracing the magic that comes with it. I know that I definitely am. I have been loving the fact that I can sit outside and have a cup of tea and stare at my plants like a complete weirdo, waiting for the seeds to burst through the soil. Is anyone else with me on that? Like every day you're out there checking, going, oh, I think I can see something. Yeah, I'd never thought I'd be one of those people, but I totally am, and I'm all for it. But yes, so thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find me in the usual places. I'm on at Wiccan Sage for now on Instagram. That will soon be changing over to Rosethorn Cottage very soon. I have the new logo and I'm so excited to share it with you. Oh my God, it looks so good. I'm so excited. And then you can find me on YouTube as well under Rosethorn Cottage. Also, if you want to dive into some more magic, come and join us over on Patreon. We have a really cool group. I love my Patreon group. They're just like such legends, and I love them all so much. And I often share extra episodes of the podcast, or we do have spells. We're having a catch up this week, which would be so fun. There's all different things on there. So if you are looking for a little bit more magic, definitely go over there. And also, actually, I've really been diving into TikTok, something that I like totally fobbed off for ages because I was like, no, I don't want to be on TikTok. But now I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I'm really diving into fae magic or fairy magic over there, which is so fun. So if that's something that appeals to you, come and see me on TikTok. I don't even know what my name is. I think it's witchofrosethornecottage. Yeah, I'm loving the TikTok. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for all your messages and love and everything that you always send me. I really appreciate it. And let me know if this episode was made for you. Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, and I hope that it helped in some way. But yeah, have a really beautiful week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.